Meet the Ashby Hawkins family. For one summer, they're giving up the trappings of their modern lives and travelling back in time to live through 50 years of British weekends. Steph, Rob, Daisy and Seth will experience a radical transformation in how we spend our leisure time.
I'm free!
From the formal...
I feel like I'm going to a wedding.
...to the frivolous.
We're going on holiday.
From do-it-yourself to doing almost nothing.
You've turned into Wham.
Starting in 1950,
oh my,
their own home will be their time machine.
It's 1961!
Fast-forwarding them through a new year each day.
What on earth are you doing?
We're making a massive dartboard.
It's a beige.
Oh, there's a telly up in the corner as well, look.
As they discover how a social, technological
What's that?
and spending revolution
Different. Oh my god.
has transformed our free time forever.
Are you ready? Yeah!
Last time, the Ashby Hawkins strutted their way through the 1970s.
Oh!
A decade filled with family togetherness.
I wanted to create memories. We have.
This time, they enter an era of aspiration, the 1980s.
This is a power suit. I look like a boxer.
But what will the multiple distractions on offer
Hello, everybody. My mum's just returned from work.
mean for family life?
We're all going in that direction. I'm not sure what it is that's going to bring us back together again.
It's the next chapter in our time-travelling adventure. It's 1980, and the family's eye-catching 70s house has been transformed into a chintzy show home. And their humble Renault exchanged for a top-of-the-range Vauxhall Cavalier. I'm back with social historian Polly Russell to let loose the 80s. Oh, my eyes.
This is the decade that's most identified with the rise in home ownership. Your home is your biggest asset and evidence of your success and your taste. There isn't one style here, is there? And I think that's because in this period, you know, home decorating becomes the sort of national obsession.
People who hadn't really done any home decorating before started in the 80s, and you can see that it took them a while to get the hang of it.
Yes, you've got kind of mishmash of styles with the ruched curtains and all of the flowers and the chintz and the wallpaper that's giving you a headache.
A reminder that not everybody in the 80s lived in a pop video.
No, there's none of that kind of sleek coolness, is there?
It certainly looks a lot like my house that I grew up in the 80s.
Does it?
Yeah, I think my mother would be desperate if she thought I was saying that.
Ah, totally open plan now.
And the colour palette is disgusting. It's kind of moribund flesh. Also, my beady eye for a design feature tells me that it's a breakfast bar. The key 80s thing. You run in, coffee, boom, on the go, and then just run off to the deregulated city and start making money.
It's about pleasure and fun, so it's not about labour. And I think what it's suggesting is really busy, affluent lives.
A year before the 80s began, Margaret Thatcher had been elected Prime Minister on a promise of freedom for the market and the individual.
There are many things to be done to set this nation on the road to recovery. And I don't mean economic recovery alone, but a new independence of spirit and a zest for achievement. What a nation we could be!
Aspiration was prized, even as inequality rose. To keep up with the Joneses, many of us were spending beyond our means. A trend seen clearly in the Family Expenditure Survey, which asked thousands of households to record all their purchases, from a meal out to a new car. The original handwritten diaries have been shredded, but the survey's data give us the best possible clue about what families were doing in their leisure time.
We've had the Family Expenditure Survey analysed, and what you see is that expenditure goes up significantly on leisure and entertainment. It goes up by a whopping 60 billion over the decade.
Looking down here, it's VCR, videos, home computer. In the 50s, it was like a shilling on fags. This man owns 5 televisions. But how does this gel with the idea of the 80s as the haves and the have-nots?
What you have to remember is that there's been deregulation of credit, so you can spend a lot of money without necessarily having the requisite income. Here's a man who's 45 from Wales. He earns £549 per week, but he's got £741 credit card debt.
Just sitting there watching adverts and buying everything that they tell him to buy, isn't he? So even people who haven't got money are really stretching themselves trying to have it all.
Yes, I think that's right.
The Family Expenditure Survey will guide everything the Ashby Hawkins do in the 1980s.
The 70s for me was a real golden time in terms of spending it with the family, so I'm hoping that we can keep that kernel of fun together.
I've sort of enjoyed spending time with my family, but I'm really hoping we're going to be spending less time together and more time on technology. Look at the car!
Can't wait to drive it.
Ew.
Oh, this room feels smaller.
Oh, it feels lovely.
What a lot of furniture.
Oh, there's a ghetto blaster.
There's a lot of weird stuff. I mean, look at that. You've got a pretending to be Ming vase with silk flowers. In a stately home, you could have a vase of that size. But in a lounge in suburbia, what's all that about?
Oh, look at the hi-fi system. Look, twin deck.
It's very high-tech, though, isn't it?
It's the future.
I had a ghetto blaster, and I used to carry it around with me on my shoulder. And you could have a party anywhere when you took that.
That is such a small TV.
It's remote control.
We don't have to get up now. We can sit about lazing, watching TV all day.
It's the tackiest taste I've ever seen.
Is this edible?
No, it's for smelling it.
Potpourri. It's air freshener.
It was an alternative to going... Yeah, you'd smell it when you go into the toilet of your nan's house.
Smells like disinfection.
Whoa.
Wow! Look at this. It's bigger.
It's beige.
We have a
They
microwave.
replaced the wall with work surface. Look at the breakfast table. The breakfast table's awesome. There's a telly in here as well.
Oh, look! It's like the first mobile phone, but you
How is
can't
that
take
mobile? You're attached by
It...
a cord.
Yeah, but you can take it around the house.
Yeah, we have got a lot of stuff, so it looks like we've been spending. I remember in the 80s, appearance was important and substance less so, and this room epitomises that for me. I've got to last a decade in this house, and I think I'm going to be going slightly mad by the end of it. Hello, Giles.
Hello, you look amazing. This is your exciting 80s show home. This house is an expression of having it all, but you're going to need money to pay for it, so you're going to become a dual income family. Steph, you're going to be going out to work.
Yay.
But there's still an expectation that you should be in the kitchen cooking the dinner, so you're going to be doing both. Rob, the job for life thing is gone, so you're going to have to work longer and longer hours. And although most of you are going to find work creeping into your leisure time, that won't be the case for you, sir. You are going to have a lot more choice in your leisure time.
Okay, good.
So, there's your manual for the decade, and I'm going to leave you to get on with one of the most popular pastimes of the 1980s, which is DIY, home improvement.
Well, we're all doing that.
All of you are doing it, and if you can improve on this, I'll be really surprised. So have fun with it.
That shouldn't be too hard.
Excellent.
Wow.
Exciting.
It's going to be flamboyant and frilly, isn't it?
What is there to decorate?
Everything.
Decorating gave property owners the chance to stamp their personality all over their home.
And the really important thing with stencils is that you don't put too much paint on that, because otherwise it just splurges.
The expansion of right to buy and mortgage deregulation in the 80s saw home ownership grow by 10% across the decade. And thanks to newly opened DIY superstores, owners could improve their properties with all the latest daring styles.
Carefully painting across the stencil. This takes you into your wonderful fantasy world where you can have any pattern that you can ever imagine.
Oh, look! I don't think it's meant to do that. Daisy, stop stenciling your brother.
The expenditure survey reflects this obsession with redecoration. Like this 47-year-old man from the southeast who spent £40 on paint, the equivalent of £120 today.
No! We've got to live in here.
I don't even know what we were doing to that poor kitchen wall. You can't have my mum, control freak number 1, and my sister, control freak number 2, doing the same thing and hope there to be complete peace. That will not happen.
I have to say, like it or loathe it, we've certainly transformed the room.
Meanwhile, Rob is busy making his own improvements.
Whoa!
Huh? Huh?
It totally changes this room.
Why do people think that this would improve their housing?
But I was looking outside in the road. No one's got it.
Yeah, I wonder why.
When we weren't chintzing up our homes, we spent most of our time doing one thing: watching TV. The time we spent glued to the box went up from 19 to 26 hours a week in the first half of the decade. So I'm bringing the family a new gadget which will help them cram even more telly into their lives.
Okay, just...
What is that?
What is that? Do you really mean what is that?
Yeah.
I think I might know. It can't be a DVD player.
The DVD in 1980?
Oh, is it a VCR?
Yes, it is.
Oh, that's brilliant!
But yes, so that means you can record things that, you know, when you're out and come back and watch them later.
Awesome.
This is the birth of on-demand TV. You can spend the entire week just watching telly.
Really expensive piece of kit.
Do you remember how expensive it was?
Really expensive.
A chap like this would have been £599, which is about £2,000, about £1,900 in today's money. It's a month's salary. So people mostly rented them. I'll put it down here and I'll leave you to try and work out.
Thank you, John.
We're back.
Thanks,
Cheerio.
guys.
See you.
There we go.
That's the eject button.
The expenditure survey is awash with this revolutionary piece of home technology. By the end of the decade, 60% of homes had one.
VCRs were just like the most exciting thing when they first came out.
Okay, it's on. It's flashing 12. I think it's really cool to actually be able to record TV now.
When setting the length of the recording set, the minute button must be first.
Read the instructions. That's how you record stuff. That's the instructions how to record it.
Go away.
God's sake.
Oh, look, it's doing it. Yes. Yay. Right.
Insert this side into the recorder. There we go. Okay, it's a bit big.
Oh, what about that? This is called Dallas.
Sounds like a cowboy western.
With J.R. Ewing. So should we record this so we can watch it later?
Yeah.
In the early 80s, British viewers couldn't get enough of US television imports, like Dallas. And our special relationship with all things American didn't stop there. The bond between Margaret Thatcher and new President Ronald Reagan would define the decade.
The great friendship is, if anything, stronger than it has ever been.
And American influences were everywhere.
Dinner time.
Oh, yay!
What have we got? What have we got?
Got a takeaway.
What is it?
Fries, burgers, and fizzy drinks.
What are you doing?
Marvellous. Do you think we could do this every night then? It's the shooting of JR.
Yeah.
We're actually going to see JR get shot. I had a mirror badge that said, I shot JR.
It was about American multi-millionaires. So they lived in these massive houses. And people just aspired to be like them.
On the 26th of May 1980, 22 million Brits tuned in to watch arch-villain JR get shot.
Oh, the door's opening. There he is.
Oh! Bang, bang.
He's shot. Is he dead? Oh, we don't even know if he's dead.
Mum, he went, oh.
Yeah,
Come on.
And you got shot twice.
Whoa!
I was more excited then than I was then, back in the 80s. That was ultra exciting. Watch it again. We can rewind the tape and watch it again.
We're in a completely new era with a lot more technology. Everything seems a bit more relaxed.
I've heard of a VCR, but I didn't actually know what it was. They are really complicated. And obviously Dallas, you know. Wow.
It's a new day at the Ashby Hawkins, which in this experiment means a new year.
It was 1981, the year of the wedding.
We may have been enthralled to all things American, but some occasions had us proud to be British. On the 29th of July, there was a national holiday to mark the marriage of Charles and Diana, and Britain celebrated in true 80s style by going shopping.
They put the royal wedding on everything.
From royal wedding sweatshirts to royal wedding beer and even royal wedding trainers. Like 10 million of us, the Ashby Hawkins are going to have a party for friends and neighbours at their local hall.
Really? Is that Diana, do you think?
Oh my God, that's terrible.
Wow, this is amazing.
Granny Jennifer is here to join in the festivities. In 1981, over 500,000 people congregated in London, hoping to catch a glimpse of the royal party. And to grab the prime spots, people camped for days.
You couldn't actually see an inch of pavement anywhere, and money wouldn't buy you a space from most of these people.
You're being involved in a piece of history being made.
On the streets that week was a 10-year-old Rob and mum Jennifer, who slept outside St Paul's for 5 nights.
I just saw it on the television that people were gathering.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why aren't I there?
You dropped everything for the royal family.
I did. Did take a chance, really, taking you along. 10 years old.
We were so close to the church, I actually felt like one of the guests.
What I always remember, though, is right at the very last, when you knew the carriages were leaving Buckingham Palace, they were still vacuuming that carpet.
But not everyone was as captivated as Jennifer by the royal event. In 1981, a 16-year-old Steph went to a very different celebration.
There were an awful lot of people in the country that didn't care, and I kind of fell into that camp, really. Sorry. There was a Not to the Royal Wedding bash at my local, which I went to, and no one was allowed to mention the royal wedding or wear anything red, white or blue. And it was great.
Oh, yeah. We need more chairs.
Rob's recording the whole event on a state-of-the-art 80s camcorder. Precious family memories they can relive again and again on VCR.
I'm not overly excited about seeing the wedding. I'm not really a big fan of the royals, so I don't.
And that's sitting next to me. These are made into coasters.
Is that them coming out? Oh, yeah. That's how close we were to it. How incredible. Well, I'm with Busby. It's just worth bunking off school for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, isn't it?
That is really what I wanted you to answer.
Yeah, there you go. You see, it's just... Oh, it's time. It's time. I'm going to put the telly on. Yeah, what are you doing? Sit down at the front.
No, National Anthem's playing.
She looks great, doesn't she? Listen to the crowd.
The wedding was watched by over 28 million people, more than half the UK population, and globally reached a staggering 750 million viewers.
Oh, hang on a minute. We're not going to see each other.
Yes,
we are in the barrier. We're right there.
Right where those flags
How
were.
cool is that?
She's looking over to us, look. Wait for the kiss. Wait for the kiss.
Oh, it's the famous kiss, of
Yes.
course.
Yes!
Not a proper kiss.
Yeah.
I'd never seen it on television before. The only time I'd seen it was live with my mother there. So to actually watch it with my mum, it was a lovely experience. I'd quite like to do it again, actually. It was really good.
It was really sweet to be in the hall, doing decorations and getting dressed up and preparing food, and then seeing the kids were messing about. And I love a party. Yes, I just don't need the royals to as an excuse to do that.
1981.
'82.
It's an important day for Steph.
I'm starting work today, and that's kind of nerve-wracking and exciting at the same time.
In their normal lives, she is the family's main breadwinner. But for the first time in this experiment, Steph's going to be joining the 35% of women who are working full-time.
Okay, thank you.
Are you wearing that to the office?
I'm feeling that I'm needing a bit more shoulder pad going on and something a bit more formal, and something that makes me look more like a man.
You need a bowler hat and a tash.
Not to worry, I sent Steph the wardrobe essential for an 80s working woman.
Oh, now this is a power suit. Look at the shoulders on that. I look like a boxer.
What? It's definitely intimidating.
Don't I look like a powerful businesswoman?
Yeah, I'd do what I was told if you told me.
I love being at home and I love my family, but equally it drives me stir crazy.
Steph's new job comes with the latest accessories, a filofax and a pager.
This, if anything, in the 80s was a real status symbol. People used to wear them clipped on their belts so that you could see that you were on call, and if you were on call, that meant you were indispensable and therefore hugely important.
Once in every lifetime comes a love like this.
With both parents working full-time, Daisy and Seth are joining a whole new generation of latchkey kids who could do exactly what they liked, leaving them free to indulge in social media, 1980s style.
Hello?
Oh, God.
Hello?
CB radio had been an illicit popular pastime in Britain for years.
Breaker 1-4, breaker 1-4.
Once legalised in the early 80s, thousands of kids got the bug.
This is Kit Kat and Cherry Bomb, as he likes to be known. Cherry Bomb. What are your handles, guys? Oh, I really fancy both of those right now. Who is that? Oh, God, you were so loud then. Oh, hello, Ella, how are you? I'm good, how are you? It's like talking to your grandmother. Like, hello! Yes, I'll repeat myself one more time! This is a very bad version of social media.
Is Donut there? Is anyone there?
Hello, Dad.
CB radio.
Yeah.
Oh, QSK. Brilliant. I used to have one. They're so cool. I had a friend who had one on his bike. He used to ride around Worthing.
Oh, that's cool.
Just go around in a big aerial sticking out the back. That's the best thing ever.
Do you want to have a go?
Yeah, that's mine now.
We're talking to Crunchy and Donut.
Crunchy and Donut.
Yeah.
Crunchy and Donut. This is Fallout. My name's Fallout, and I'm calling from southwest London.
After a full day at the office, Steph's back from work.
Hey, hello. Hello, everybody. My mum's just returned from work.
Daisy, do you want chicken or prawn?
Both.
In the 80s, despite more women working full-time than ever before, they were still expected to do the housework when they got home.
It feels like I'm still actually attached to the kitchen sink, but I've just got one of those very, very long dog leads that allows me out. But actually, I still always get pulled back here. Oh, kids! Jesus, have you seen this lounge?
In a bid to keep up appearances, women were doing 2 hours more housework than a decade before. No wonder when advertisers were persuading us that even our carpets needed to wear perfume. Steph's not the only one vacuuming in a power suit.
I think I might open the window.
Dinner means Steph can finally sit down.
Not absolutely sure what that is.
It's coming from your handbag.
Oh, it's the cooker.
Oh, God, my pager.
Have you got a pager coming? Seriously, you got
I
a
thought it was
pager?
a cooker, yeah.
In a world before mobiles, pagers were phenomenally popular, with 61 million users globally by the end of the decade.
The person who wants to send you the message first phones up a control centre.
And an operator there keys it into a computer. The message goes out in a series of coded pulses.
Sold as a way to free people from the office, this new technology was a double-edged sword.
All this immediacy of communication, it has its benefits, but the reality of pagers was that you could never switch off.
Okay, cheers, thanks, bye.
This device is probably the very start of that intrusion into your personal life of work. It's a slippery slope. What it's saying is work is more important than family. That's the wrong way round.
Wait for it.
1983.
Yay!
A year when the country could cram even more telly into their day with the launch of breakfast TV. The family expenditure survey shows that for more and more families, one TV was no longer enough. Thousands of households now had multiple sets.
Hello, good morning.
The two main channels went head-to-head with cheerful, unthreatening styles. The BBC had Selena Scott.
Now, it's British Fashion Week, and all this week, the best of British fashion is on show in London and here on breakfast time.
But ITV had a secret weapon.
Morning, Roland. What are you wearing this lot for?
Well, I thought I'd deck myself up this morning. Count
Roland
Roland
Rats.
Here, you know.
But you're not Scottish.
I must say, you look very smart this morning, Nicola.
Thank you. Thank you. Now,
I mean, it's great that there's breakfast television. They kind of wasted it with the talking rats. That thing's really creepy.
Seth and his friend Harvey are heading off to try out one of the most popular leisure activities for boys in the early 80s. Video games. With local authority cuts closing many youth clubs, 80s kids turned to the bright lights of the arcade.
Out on the street, you can't go around sort of zapping things generally, can you? But here you can stick 10p in a slot and you can zap things all you want.
In the 70s, I was like, yay, look, I got Pong, but it was really boring after like an hour. This is a lot more exciting, and it's colour and stuff. It's a lot more advanced. Up, down. I've got no like proper supervision from my parents. There's no one there to tell me, oh, let's go now. I'm away from my parents, and I kind of like it that way.
Back at home, Steph's got her hands on her own video technology. She's trying out the latest American-inspired fitness fad.
Are you ready to do the workout?
Jane Fonda's workout was a top seller, shifting 17 million copies worldwide.
She looks amazing, and it is quite hypnotic watching her on the screen, and it's a very aspirational thing. And they're obviously having a really good time, and it's something you can do at home.
It's very elegant, isn't it?
If you're unfit and flabby, you can do it without too much shame in your own home.
Very good. You should be warmed up and ready to go on to the arm exercise.
Oh, was that a warm-up? Holy Moses.
It wasn't just women who aspired to have the perfect body in the 80s. Men were also focusing on their appearance.
Steph, come and see. And we're going to get a tan. That is awesome, isn't it?
Dear Rob.
In the 80s, pale and interesting won't cut it. You need a tan. So I've bought you a cutting-edge machine, a tanning bed. Excellent. Will you turn me over when I'm done?
Love the shawl.
And of ridiculous things that I've ever done in my lounge, this is definitely up there.
In the 80s, we were told this was a safe way to tan.
And this is a pastime. I mean, at least in the 60s, we went to the seaside to do this, and it was more of an occasion, wasn't it?
Seth, come and see how ridiculous your father looks. Look.
This is really weird. I don't even understand the point of this.
I could do with a pina colada, though. That might help.
But no bad boys look would be complete without the most popular finishing touch for men.
Why have you put a jellyfish on my head?
Blonde highlights.
Oh! Ow! Oh! Okay!
Tonight, Daisy is Rob's stylist.
I'm laughing with you, really.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You could be Andrew Ridgely and I could be George Michael. We could do Wham together.
No. I'm dying.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. Well done, Daisy.
As the 80s moved on, our leisure time was increasingly dominated by American imports. Seth and Harvey are trying one out. I've enlisted the help of breakdancer B-Boy Steady to put them through their paces.
Hi guys. Hi. I'm Steady from Flawless, from the 80s, right?
Yep.
And that's what we used to wear. Nice.
Direct from New York, kids from Norwich to Newport were breaking out the frog splash.
We're going to learn some top rock first, and then a drop, which is how we get to the floor, then a 6-step,
That sounds complicated.
Don't think too hard. Just let your body do the work. So 5, 6, 7, and cross, in, cross, in, cross, in, cross, in. You got it!
I went backwards there.
Okay, you made a little mistake, but you got it. Okay, this is a 6-step. Okay? 1,
Bend down.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, no.
Jump up. Right. Music time. 5, 6, 7, and march, 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 march.
Yep.
Cross. 6 steps, nice. Out. I thought you said you was no good. Most people that I'm teaching that would take like 2 or 3 lessons just to learn that, and you've learned it in like 20 minutes.
I didn't really like breakdancing and the idea of it, so I was just sort of a bit worried about it, but when I got into it, I really enjoyed it.
Tap, 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 tap. High fives.
While Seth's breaking in the park,
I think I twisted my ankle.
Daisy's also fallen under the spell of all things American.
Ow!
But 80s fashion comes at a price.
Ah! Are you trying to, like, rip my hair up my skull?
Madonna burst onto the music scene in 1984. Her radical style was immediately embraced by fans, and high street shops were soon selling out of lace gloves as Madonna mania swept the country.
In the 50s, 60s and 70s, you weren't following, you know, like a celebrity. You were following, like, what everyone else was wearing, whereas this is like you choose your celebrity and you look like them. I do think I can express myself more because I can put anything on and someone will go, oh, that's totally normal. What's the dancing in the 80s? It's all kind of...
It's all like that. I really like
While the kids transform themselves, Rob's taken up yet another craze from across the pond: jogging.
I'm pleased to be out. I know I'm on my own, but I like the isolation of exercising on my own, so I'm really pleased to be out and pleased to get rid of excess energy that I have.
We were enthusiastically embracing American culture in 1984, but there was one import from the USA that was far from popular.
The message was clear. Spring, said the organisers, brought life. Cruise missiles, death.
The year before, American cruise missiles had arrived at Greenham Common. And as the Cold War intensified, fears of a nuclear conflict were at a peak. In 1984, 7 million people tuned in to the BBC's drama Threads, which depicted the horror of nuclear war and its aftermath.
If anyone dies while you are kept in your fallout room, move the body to another room in the house.
That guy's voice to this day curdles my blood. Felt like it had taken away my future. It was horrible. And I remember thinking, I don't want to bring children into this world if they're going to be living in a nuclear wasteland, if they were lucky enough to survive it.
Attack warning. Attack warning. Is it for real? Attack warning. It's for bloody real.
It's making me think, what would you do in your last 4 minutes of living? Would you try and run and survive, or would you try and embrace the last 4 minutes? It's really, really chilling. Oh my god!
Absolutely cracking piece of television.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it as much second time round as I did first time round.
Jesus Christ, they've done it.
I spent that entire part of my life being angry, frightened, resentful, scared, and it all came rushing back in Technicolor today, which is why I got emotional.
By the mid-80s, TV had become a powerful cultural force. Ronald Reagan watched Threads and the American equivalent the day after, which he said changed his mind on nuclear policy. 3 years later, Russia and the USA signed a treaty to reduce nuclear weapons.
One, two, three. Orange!
It's 1985, and Polly is bringing the Ashby Hawkins a bit of cutting-edge technology that would revolutionise our lives.
We're going up into a computerised world, and really everyone's going to need one by the time they grow up.
Hello, Polly.
Hi, I see a keyboard.
I'm bringing you the future.
Wow.
It's a home computer.
Commodore 64.
How happy is Seth? Look.
By the mid-80s, as many as 3 million households had one, and there were multiple British brands to choose from. As well as the ZX Spectrum or the BBC Micro, there was also the Grundy New Brain, the Jupiter Ace, and the Welsh-made Dragon computer. But in the end, we fell for another American import, the Commodore 64. It would become the biggest seller of all time.
So this model cost around £200. That's about £1,000 in today's money. It sells 17 million in 12 years of its existence.
The expenditure survey shows an astounding number of us jumping on the home computer bandwagon, including this 30-year-old man from Scotland who bought one for £188.50.
Einstein, go.
Unlike today's tablets and laptops, you couldn't just download apps or games.
64k RAM. My normal computers are 4 gigabytes of RAM.
They were designed for you to create everything yourself by writing your own computer code.
Try this. What? Type in 10.
Yep.
Space. Question mark. Quote. Seth smells. The thing with computers is that although they're capable of very clever things, they are actually very stupid. 20. Go to 10.
There we go.
It says Steph smells. That's not right.
But programming is no easy feat.
It is being extremely stupid. I don't like dollar signs anymore. It's still creating dollar signs. I'm pressing delete. And now it's up at the top again. Why is it doing that?
Oh my god!
I've waited 30 years so far for a computer. I want my laptop back now. So much quicker than this.
He might not be sold on its charms, but the kids who learned to program on these computers would go on to create the games Seth loves.
Hey Seth, are you sure you don't want to come outside? No. And actually enjoy the sunshine?
I've got to do this.
It changes your brain, it changes your behaviour when you're on the screen the whole time. I can see how addictive it is.
That's why it's not working.
But on July 13th, 1985, there's a huge global spectacle that will tear even Seth away from his computer.
It's 12 noon in London, 7 a.m. in Philadelphia, and around the world it's time for Live Aid.
It was the most amazing thing ever.
And you could not buy a blank videotape for love nor money in the week leading up to this because everyone recorded it.
Pop singers Bob Geldof and Midge Ure galvanised the music industry to stage the biggest global charity event in history in an attempt to help the desperate situation in Ethiopia.
Dawn, and as the sun breaks through the piercing chill of night on the plain outside Coram, it lights up a biblical famine.
Don't go to the pub tonight, please. Stay in and give us the money. There are people dying now.
He basically mobilised the whole country, didn't he?
And this was unique. McCartney, Bowie, there's Wham.
George Michael in the yellow shirt.
Wow.
Oh, woohoo!
1.9 billion people tuned in worldwide, one of the largest TV audiences ever, and it raised a colossal £70 million.
So cool. This is giving me goosebumps. This is...
Thanks to Live Aid, charity fundraising took off, and in true British style, the sillier the better.
Where's your dad? What's he up to? Something weird again?
Woohoo! What is it?
Best thing ever.
Gripped by the charity bug, Rob's got his hands on the latest vehicle to hit the market, the Sinclair C5.
I want one!
Awesome!
Let's go and raise some money, 1985 style.
Hey! How are we going to do that?
We're going to let people ride on it.
Whoa!
For money. Madam, good afternoon. Welcome to Live Aid 1985.
And pedal.
You've got to press quite hard. Don't forget, we've got your dogger's deposit.
Money for Live Aid!
It's a really positive thing, and it's a real upbeat part of the 80s for me. I feel like the tide's turning and changing a bit, because there's been quite a lot of dark stuff up to now.
As a pastime, it was fun, and we did it together, and it was for a good cause.
The legacy of Live Aid remains, and the charity is still taking donations today. But a less glorious future awaited the C5.
So, pedal first, get it going, and then push the button.
It was hoped that this electric tricycle would replace cars. Nimble in traffic and easy to park, and only £399.
Stop! I wonder how fast you can go on this.
However, its exposure to the elements and low profile made it unsafe and uncomfortable.
I've seen so many youngsters just come straight across the road, no signals, no nothing. I think they're an absolute hazard on the road. Whoever brought out that, well, wants putting up a wall and shoot him.
After only a few months on the market, with poor sales and terrible press, it was a total flop.
I love it! I want one!
Live Aid is amazing. Oh my goodness, it's incredible. That is the trigger of every single comic relief, every single sports relief, and it's stuck with us, and it's just awesome. It's really cool. It had dreadful beginnings, but the actual event, it really did bring hope. It really restored my faith in people.
Despite a multitude of distractions,
We're at, is it going, mate?
one activity has dominated the family's leisure time. Television.
We're watching a lot more television than previous decades, and it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Long live my square eyes.
In the 80s, Britain was watching 50% more than a decade earlier. And naturally, it was the TV that told us about brand new things to buy.
What's up? You know these British gas shares? They're really easy to do. Give them a ring. You see, Sid, tell you, it couldn't be easier.
In 1986, the government began privatising Britain's nationalised industries, most famously British Gas.
272.
People made a bucket load of money almost instantly.
As thousands of buyers cashed in their new shares, it meant the chance to buy even more stuff.
Oh, it's Fiesta.
Oh,
Steph's car.
it's really exciting.
By the end of the decade, 23% of Britons were two-car families. And what better way to put them to use than another favoured leisure pursuit?
Right, let's go shopping.
The Family Expenditure Survey indicates that even men were catching the shopping bug, and the male fashion market rocketed. I've arranged for Rob and Steph to get some style tips from expert Karen Franklin.
Hello, look at you, you look amazing.
In 1986, Karen told the British public what to buy every week on The Clothes Show.
With the massive choice available in your high streets this very minute, there really is no excuse for looking shoddy. Is there, boys?
OK, Rob, I've got you these. Nice sloppy suit. Have a go on it. This was the time, really, when menswear was really blossoming. Suddenly, The weekend was about shopping as a hobby and buying clothes and buying style. There were big shopping malls sprouting up where everything was under one roof. So we were encouraged to shop. So, Rob, how are you getting on with that?
I am ready.
Let's have a look. Well, hey! Look at you, mister.
Amazing.
How do you feel?
Comfortable. Stylish. A lot better than when I was dressed when I went in there.
I've got the finishing touch here. We've rolled up your sleeves because that's a big part of the look. Don Johnson's really the look that we're channeling here. He was the David Beckham of his day. What he wore on telly influenced men, and women would have just tuned in to adore him.
Oh, look at yourself in the mirror.
It's very
You haven't really
comfortable.
seen,
It's
have
very
you?
nice. I haven't seen it at all.
Oh, who's that?
Wow, yeah, no, I'm just, all I need now is a Ferrari Testarossa and I'll be off.
It wasn't just Miami Vice influencing us. The 80s was the golden age of advertising. I've come to meet John Hegarty,
John?
the man responsible for one of the decade's most memorable ads.
So what changed in the 1980s?
Well, Thatcher came along. She talked about individualism, achieving things yourself. All of a sudden, there was a sort of huge change in the way people thought and felt. People had this sense of, I can do it, I can achieve it. Advertising used to be about us, the family, about togetherness and that. And I think the 80s, advertising was about me. What I can achieve, it's about me.
The amazing thing about the 501's ad with Nick Kamen was, in theory, you were selling jeans, but in fact you changed the kind of pants people wore. My drawer full of wife fronts became irrelevant. My girlfriend bought me a pair of boxer shorts.
But what's funny about it is the original script, we had him stripping down to a pair of wife fronts.
Completely different ad.
Completely different ad. But I think the other thing that Levi's did with that campaign was that they changed the way people appreciated music. They changed not only Levi's, but fashion itself. And it had an impact on how you could tell a story in advertising. It could be sexy, it could be individual, it could be very different. And I think it became the mark for that era.
As a spotty 17-year-old, even I bought a pair of Levi's in a bid to look like Nick Kamen. And I've managed to get hold of a few pairs for the family.
I love these jeans. The guy in the advert, he was just sex on legs.
The advert was so successful, Levi's sales went up by 700%, and they struggled to keep up with demand.
I love these jeans.
I feel really cool.
The last night out Steph had was bingo in the 60s. Now, as a liberated 80s woman with a full Filofax, she can go out with friends after work to a new female-friendly wine bar.
Shall I get a bottle of wine? Yes. Okay, I'll go get that.
Most pubs in the 80s were rowdy, male-dominated environments. But the recently opened Picture and Piano was the first bar to target working women with money to spend on socialising. It banned fruit machines and designed a look that was a world away from the traditional British boozer.
Cheers. Cheers. My first outing to a wine bar. Dartboard, pool table.
Smoking.
Horrible grotty wallpaper, sticky carpets.
Yeah.
But this is very different from the pub, isn't it?
It's open, light.
Airy, clean, posh. I think it took a long time for the hospitality industry to realise that women had got money to spend.
In true 80s style, the night out gives Steph a chance to name-drop about her latest purchases.
I've just got a car. I've got a Ford Fiesta.
Have you?
What colour? Yeah. Oh, that's a girl's question. And it's my car. Rob's got the boring family car.
What's he got?
He's got a Vauxhall Cavalier.
Nice.
It's maroon.
Oh.
So far in this experiment, Steph has done the lion's share of the housework. However, in 1987, a new phrase came into common parlance: the new man.
What have I done to deserve this? I feel more useful and comfortable now that I'm back into what I would normally do in the contemporary life.
But despite the hype, most men were actually only doing a couple more minutes of housework a week.
Yeah.
Woo! Daisy has given him blonde highlights in
Oh,
his
yes.
hair.
No.
Yes.
Oh my God. But he's got a tan.
Really?
Oh,
It just looks so funny.
I'm not seeing her, but at least I know that she's having a good time instead of being chained to the sink.
It was really good. You know, I've definitely got more freedom in this era. I haven't been out since the 1960s, so I was really, really chuffed to actually get out and have fun. It's brilliant. That was so lovely. It's much more like what I'm used to doing. It felt like the old me a bit. I felt like I got my mojo back a bit.
This is Bruno Brooks live in London with a brand new Top 40. Now, a direct computer link with Gallup headquarters tells us the news as it comes in minute by
It's Sunday. Daisy's taping the Top 40.
Pump up the volume.
1988, my hard-working one.
Already? Wow. Time flies.
Now Rob and Steph are both working full-time. They're using the very latest tools to bring the garden up to the standards of their 80s show home.
One false move and your topiary's done for, isn't it?
While his parents are gardening, Seth and his friend Harvey are off to the video shop. Pre-recorded tapes were expensive to buy, but the expenditure survey shows countless video rental entries. Like this family from the southeast who spent $3.99 on renting videos.
Britain has more video recorders per head of population than any other country in the world.
The rise of the video shop left cinemas struggling as audiences dipped to their lowest levels ever in the mid-80s.
Ghostbusters?
Seen it. Seen Indiana Jones.
Seen that.
Karate Kid.
Maybe not. Crocodile Dundee.
Nah.
Dirty Dance. First Dance, First Love, The Time of Your Life. That is for girls. Flashdance. No.
There's Top Gun.
Yeah.
I've not seen that one yet.
Top Gun's good, yeah. What about Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Oh, that's supposed to be good. Okay, let's go.
Let's go play.
As the decade progresses, the family are spending less and less time together.
In the 60s and 70s, we did gardening out here together. But Seth's got other shiny distractions, and Daisy was going off and doing her own thing. And I worry that we're all going in that direction. I'm not sure what it is that's going to bring us back together again.
It's almost like we've divorced from our children.
Which is sad. I don't like it. I miss them.
Instead of visiting the cinema like he did in the 50s, Seth can now watch films back to back in the comfort of his own home.
Feel the need.
The need for speed!
So all the stuff that we've been given, what it seems to do is make my house smaller and push me further away from my family. You're replacing emotion and feeling with plastic and whirring.
I think the 80s is much more about money and being able to buy things as opposed to create our own happiness. I feel materially richer, but I don't feel spiritually richer.
Away from home, as the 80s drew to a close, a new youth counterculture emerged.
Party crew, listen up. Party crew, Fantasia Girls Home and all the
Where is
Saturday
it,
night
mate?
party crew, listen up. Now you get to the cross, junction 4, A506, that's A506, wait there for more info. Wait there, it's going to be a large one. Tell your mates.
Tell our mates. Have we had any? Without any mobile phones.
Growing out of the pirate radio scene, acid house was a rejection of the brand-led consumerism of the 80s. With illegal parties in deserted warehouses, it was definitely not something to share with your parents.
This is what it's like to be a proper teenager, going out to raves, being rebellious and being cool. We are not cool in any way. We just sit on our phones all day. Why don't we just do this? I really wish we did this.
I want to go to a rave, like, right now.
It's 1989. To celebrate the end of the decade, the family are hosting a cocktail party. The 80s saw a renaissance in cocktail making, The more flamboyant, the better.
It's no longer a breakfast bar, it's a cocktail bar.
Cool.
So it's much more fun.
After Tom Cruise made barkeeping cool, how you mixed the drink was almost as important as what went in it.
There's a vodka.
1 measure of vodka. 3/4 of a measure of tequila.
This is quite an alcoholic one, isn't it?
Measure of tequila.
While Rob and Steph tend bar, Seth found a job too.
What are you playing?
Paperboy.
I used to play Paperboy.
Is it good, Seth?
So a lot
No,
of my...
it sucks.
What's the cat?
That's a dog.
And you should have gone onto the pavement then. There we go. Oh, yeah.
Oh, what?
Huh? Game over.
Yeah.
That looks like you could probably clean any stain off anything with.
Should we try them?
You first, yeah?
Straw each.
All right,
This is a blue moon. It tastes like something you clean a toilet with as well.
That's really nice. Do you not like that?
Holly and I are back to find out what the 80s has meant to the family.
I've just prepared a Harvey Wallbanger there for you. There we are. Excellent.
And
Cheers.
I accidentally put too much cucumber, so it's sunk.
Do you think the problem with that drink is that there's too much cucumber in it? Well, I'll give it a go then. So, how was the 80s from a kid's point of view?
Good.
Awesome.
Enjoyable. Lots of technology. Fun.
Awesome.
Really?
I
It's
loved
all
it.
that good?
Yeah, I loved it. I did my dad's hair, as you can see, it was lovely. Raves. I dressed up like Madonna. I was like really Madonna-ing up and I loved it. The 80s is so cool. You can do whatever you want and get away with it.
What was it like for you as a family?
We didn't spend a lot of time together. Unlike the 70s where we were always together doing fun stuff. In the 80s, this is all about have it all and full-on lifestyle and appearance being really, really important.
It's the lounge.
But no 80s bash would be complete without breaking out the karaoke.
I'd be sorry to leave 80s television because for me that was the best television ever. But the 80s for me was the time for just buying lots of stuff that you don't need. You have to have it. Keep having it. Have more. Have the new one. You don't need to do that.
I've got a full-time, meaningful job. I've got my own car. I am allowed to go out on my own with my friends. So a bit more freedom, but it feels to me that there is less leisure. And what there is compressed into quite a sort of short amount of time.
Well, having it all is not all it seems. They've had so much choice, so much more freedom, so much more to do, and yet at what cost to family life?
In the 80s, it feels as though we're all going off on separate paths, and we need a way to get us back together again.
Next time, the Ashby Hawkins launch into the 90s.
Oh my God, it's amazing!
A decade when technology gets personal.
I got a mobile.
1, 2. I'm going to put this in my bedroom.
Can we get a photograph of you before you go?
Yes. It's a Game Boy.
Well, changing the rules next tonight on BBC Two and putting the power for hiring and firing directly in the hands of the workers. Our new series, Who's the Boss, starts next. Well, after that at 10, it's the final challenge in the last of the series to find out who'll be crowned the ultimate phone shop idol.
Everybody